My name is Ella Murphy, the golden canary kept by Ethan Walker, a heavyweight in the capital's elite circles. Ethan, the current head of the Walker family, Beijing's wealthiest clan, has already amassed a fortune exceeding 300 billion by the age of 30. Gossip about him floods the internet. Yet I remain the woman who stayed by his side the longest. 3 reasons. I resemble his white moonlight, I have a silver tongue, and my skills are exceptional, until today. Holding the 3-month pregnancy test report in my hand, my emotions were mixed. I had originally come to the hospital to check for irregular menstruation, only to be told that the absence of my period wasn't due to irregularity, it was because I was pregnant. Returning to the villa, I passed by Ethan's study, where his secretary was reporting to him, "Mr. Walker, there are a few points regarding the engagement arrangements I'd like to confirm with you." I stood outside the door, at a loss for what to do. Engaged, it suddenly occurred to me that I had heard a few days ago Ethan's first love Harper had returned to the country, getting engaged right after coming back. Is their love that strong? My eyebrow twitched slightly before quickly returning to normal. Why would he get engaged to someone like me? Just a plaything kept around for amusement, instead of someone as well matched as Harper. I am a girl from the countryside, my biological parents, in order to support my 2 younger brothers, took 3,000 yuan and sold me, still in school, to a family in the neighboring village. My adoptive father usually appeared honest and kind, but he had a drinking problem. Every night after drinking, he would beat or curse my adoptive mother, calling her a hen that couldn't lay eggs, blaming her for forcing him to spend his savings to buy another worthless burden. During these times, my adoptive mother always endured in silence. The adoptive mother was over 20 years younger than the adoptive father, and I later learned that she had also been sold by her family in exchange for a bride price, until one day, the adoptive father got drunk again and tried to assault me while intoxicated. The adoptive mother rushed in and fought with him, and during the struggle, the adoptive father suddenly died of a cerebral hemorrhage. She fled the countryside with me. The adoptive mother worked 4 odd jobs a day to support my education, and eventually, I was admitted to a decent university. In my junior year of college, I worked as a night cleaner at Ethan's company. While cleaning the CEO's office, Ethan was sitting there alone drinking. He seemed heavily intoxicated and not fully conscious. He pulled me into the lounge. The next day, without any panic, I directly demanded compensation from him for my losses. He not only compensated for my losses but even offered me a no-effort package. I didn't hesitate and agreed immediately. Moreover, Ethan has broad shoulders, a narrow waist, and long legs. Honestly, it's hard to say which of us is getting the better deal. He gives me 500,000 per month as an allowance. In return, I need to be available whenever he calls, ensuring his physical and mental comfort. Ethan said we don't talk about feelings, only money. He doesn't want to talk, I don't dare to. Now Ethan is getting married. There's not even money to talk about between us anymore. When it rains, it pours. At this critical moment, I actually got pregnant. After tearing up the prenatal test report and throwing it into the trash can, I went to knock on Ethan's study door. Ethan's fingers were rapidly tapping on the keyboard. The beige wool sweater he wore made him appear exceptionally gentle, and his already handsome face, now adorned with a pair of gold-rimmed glasses, added an air of restraint. Seeing me enter, he took off his glasses and tossed them onto the desk. "What brings you here, Span?" Originally, I had come to tell him about the pregnancy. It seems like a bad time to bring it up now. Ethan is about to get engaged to his first love. If he finds out I'm pregnant now, he probably won't let me keep the baby. My adoptive mother and I have relied on each other for years. Life has finally started to improve, and I don't want to lose my own flesh and blood again. Thinking of this, I smiled and walked over to Ethan, wrapping my arms around his neck. "I've got my eye on a set of jewelry." Ethan pulled me into his embrace, gently smoothing my carefully styled long curls with his hand, his voice tender and lingering as his warm breath brushed against my ear. "What jewelry? Doesn't Chalmette have a jewelry exhibition tonight? I heard the 3rd chapter of the Buttes du Monde series will be showcased. I want that show-stopping oversized diamond necklace. Have Louis, my secretary, take you there tonight." As usual, I happily kissed him and then snuggled against his chest coquettishly. "Thank you, Mr. Walker." Ethan gently brushed his fingers across my lips, his gaze deepening with intensity. "Just a verbal thank you. The first rule of being a canary, understand the patron's hints." Understanding his implication, I let out a soft, coquettish laugh and nestled further into his embrace. Wrapping my arms around his neck as I leaned in to plant a pleading kiss, he sat still, offering no response, as if waiting for me to continue my performance. Cool lips met, and the faint scent of white musk from him reached my nose, reaching out to slowly undo 2 buttons of his shirt. My wandering hand trailed downward. Ethan let out a muffled groan, finally overcome with desire. Gripping my waist, he lifted me onto the desk. The office phone on the desk was knocked over, emitting a beeping sound. After a deep kiss, Ethan gently nibbled on my earlobe, sending shivers down my spine, and I responded even more passionately. The air was thick with desire. After it was over, Ethan carried me back to the bedroom. I carefully protected my belly, resting on his chest, my mind preoccupied with thoughts of the baby as my fingers unconsciously traced circles. Ethan grabbed my finger and kissed it by his lips. "Seems like you're not tired enough." I playfully stuck out my tongue, my voice soft and warm. "Mr. Walker, do you like children?" Ethan answered bluntly. "No, I don't." My heart felt blocked, making it hard to breathe. Ethan glanced down at me. "Why are you suddenly asking this?" I smiled, not wanting him to notice my unease. "Nothing, just thought of it and asked." The plan to run away took shape in my mind just like that. That evening, Ethan's secretary took me to attend the Shangmei jewelry exhibition. Seeing me, a group of pampered young ladies from the capital's elite circles covered their mouths and whispered disdainfully, "What kind of occasion is this? How dare a kept woman show up here?" Exactly. Just because she slept with Ethan a few times, she really thinks she's entered high society. If I were her, I wouldn't have the face to come. The upper-class circles naturally have their own hierarchy of disdain. The legitimate-born look down on the illegitimate, and the illegitimate scorn kept birds like me. I simply ignored them and headed straight for the high jewelry display area. Tonight, the brand unveiled the 3rd chapter of its series, with the grand finale being a diamond necklace called Angel's Wings. The designer used marquise, round, and pear-shaped diamonds arranged diagonally upward to mimic feathers, alternating to create the illusion of spread wings. Crafting a poised for-flight appearance, the pendant features a stunning 11-carat D-grade internally flawless diamond, with a dazzling teardrop cut. The multifaceted diamonds, arranged in multiple layers, make these ethereal angel wings radiate with breathtaking brilliance. No one can resist the beauty of diamonds, just as no one can resist the allure of this fleeting world's splendor. I couldn't take my eyes off it, burning with the desire to make it my own. When Ethan's call came through, I was still in a daze. "What are you doing? This diamond necklace is so beautiful. Do you like it that much?" I murmured softly and took a step closer to the display case. "I really, really like it." The voice beside my ear fell silent for a moment. When it spoke again, the man's voice carried a hint of amusement. "If you like it, then it's yours, Mr. Walker. You're so kind. You know what kind of thanks I want. Wear those new clothes in the wardrobe for me tonight, okay?" I replied softly. "You still owe me from earlier," Ethan said lazily. "I'll make up for it." "Oh, and when will that be?" I gazed at the diamond shimmering with unique brilliance in the glass display case, biting my lip. "Tonight, I'm looking forward to it." On the phone, Ethan sounded cheerful. "Bring your diamonds. I'll pick you up in half an hour." Ethan's Rolls-Royce was parked outside the convention center. His personal assistant came into the venue to greet me in person. The diamond necklace was already around my neck. The socialites who had previously mocked me were stunned. Some awkwardly tried to approach me for small talk. I didn't pay any attention and turned to leave, leaving them standing there awkwardly. After all, Ethan is about to get engaged, and there aren't many opportunities left for me to borrow his authority. Might as well enjoy the moment while I can. With light steps, I got into the car and immediately threw myself into Ethan's arms. The partition in the back of the Rolls-Royce slowly rose. A foot rested on Ethan's shoulder, while my hand played with his tie. My long black hair cascaded loosely. Ethan's slender fingers caressed my ankle, brushing against the thin fabric of my stockings. His previously weary eyes now burned with desire. "Ella, you wore this out." Ethan held my calf in his hand, slowly kneading it. A black-fitted dress paired with stiletto heels, it accentuated my slender waist and long legs. Since being with Ethan, this body of mine has been nurtured to become increasingly refined. I tilted my head up, speaking coyly. "Do I look pretty?" "Pretty, but I hope there won't be a next time." "Why?" I boldly flirted with him. "You like this? You can only show it to me at home, in bed." After saying this, Ethan forcefully tore open my stockings. Long after the car stopped, Ethan finally carried me out of the car, my clothes in disarray. And I shyly hid my face in his suit jacket the entire time, afraid of being seen by anyone. At the North Olympic Villa, I wrapped my arms around Ethan's waist, my fingers playing with his belt buckle. "Do you like this diamond necklace?" "I absolutely adore it." I caressed the largest diamond on it. "Then wear it for me all night." Ethan grabbed my restless hand, kissed it, and said, "Only wear it for me." Understanding his hint, I boldly slipped my fingers little by little into his mouth. "I don't want to." Ethan smiled even more deeply. "That's not up to you." In the end, I went along with his wishes and wore only that diamond necklace the entire evening. I slept until noon the next day. I slowly calculated the money I had available. Over the years, Ethan gave me a lot of money, but I had very little left in my hands. The reason was that my foster mother had returned to the village. She said she saw hope in me. She had no children of her own but wanted to save more kids who were once like me. Without hesitation, I fully supported her. Almost all the money I had was spent on rescuing abandoned children. This month's salary Ethan hasn't been paid to me yet, but my stomach can't wait any longer. After much deliberation, I decided to sell the few pieces of jewelry I had. To avoid Ethan finding out, I didn't approach auction houses or trading centers directly. Instead, I anonymously spread the word among some wealthy socialites, letting them know about the sale of a few collector's edition jewelry pieces. Before long, a wealthy woman contacted me, expressing interest in buying the jewelry necklace I had. I gladly agreed and arranged to meet her at a coffee shop. However, the coffee shop she chose happened to be near Ethan's company. To my surprise, the person interested in buying my items turned out to be Harper, also known as Ethan's White Moonlight, First Love. When she saw me, her mouth opened slightly, and she froze. Clearly, she recognized who I was. Soon, she composed herself and sat down across from me. "Are you Ella? You're even more beautiful than in the photos." The expression I had prepared froze on my face. What was going on? Shouldn't she have been sneering at me with contempt? "Ethan doesn't treat you well, doesn't give you money to spend. Why do you still need to sell things?" "No, I just don't like it anymore," I stammered. "Today's deal won't happen. I won't disturb you further." I stood up to leave. "Wait," Harper suddenly called out to me. I turned my head back. She brushed her hair aside, her already charming face now wearing a faint smile at the corner of her lips. She took out a checkbook from her bag and pushed it toward me. "Short on money, aren't you? Leave Ethan, and you can fill in any amount on this check." My eyes flickered. "Really?" Harper didn't say a word, merely raising an eyebrow. I sat back down in the chair. One must first kneel to earn money before they can stand to make choices. "Miss Lewis, can I fill in any amount I want? As long as you're willing to leave Ethan, you can fill in any amount you want." There was a strange emotion on her face that I couldn't quite understand. I was already planning to leave, and now Harper is willing to give me this money. Isn't that like picking it up for free? I lowered my eyes, unconsciously biting my lip. "Do you have a pen?" Before Harper could speak, a low, cold male voice sounded beside me. "I have one, thank you." I turned my head with a smile, only to freeze in place when I met Ethan's icy gaze. "Looking for a pen?" Ethan calmly extended the pen toward me with an air of composure. Though smiling, his tone was laced with indifference. "Why aren't you taking it?" I remained silent, meekly lowering my head, not daring to meet his gaze. Harper stood up, wearing a somewhat triumphant smile. "You arrived quite quickly." Ethan ignored the remark, still holding out the pen. Harper wasn't annoyed either. Glancing at the checkbook with her eyes, Ella agreed to it. Before she could finish her sentence, I abruptly stood up from the chair and grabbed Ethan's arm. Acting coquettishly, "Ethan, I'm hungry, let's go eat, okay?" Hearing how I addressed him, Ethan glanced at me, his eyes flickering with an unreadable emotion. Without saying a word, he turned and walked away. I quickly jogged to catch up. Following Ethan into the car, I tried to stay close to the door, avoiding any interaction with Ethan. Yet even if I didn't provoke him, he wouldn't let me off. "How much were you planning to fill in just now?" His gaze swept over me dangerously, laced with a warning, as if any unsatisfactory answer would result in him immediately throwing me out of the car. I shivered and moved closer to the car door. "I didn't mean to fill it in." He fished out a cigarette case from his suit pocket, took one out and placed it on the lighter, paused for a moment, then put the cigarette back into the case and casually tossed it onto the seat. After following Ethan, I became a delicate girl, and I absolutely detest the smell of cigarettes. Still not telling the truth, his knuckled fingers tapped lightly on his knee. His tone was unreadable. 1 million. Ethan darkened his gaze, concealing the turmoil beneath. He let out a low chuckle. I looked up to see his Adam's apple bob. "Am I only worth 1 million to you?" The surrounding air was as cold as ice. Who knows what he's so angry about? He's about to get engaged to Harper Lewis. It's not too much for an outstanding employee like me to grab a bonus before leaving, is it? Ethan leaned back in his chair, looking at me, a complex glimmer faintly flashing in his eyes. "Short on money lately." I was on high alert, my nerves tense once more. "No, not lacking." I sheepishly rubbed my nose. "Actually, just a little short." "Ella, are you stupid? Don't you understand the principle of playing a long game to catch a big fish? Where am I supposed to find a big fish for me to catch?" He seemed genuinely furious with me. Ethan pressed his fingers against his temple, the usual cold and aloof demeanor completely gone from his face. "Transfer 5 million to her account." After a long pause, I heard him instruct his assistant in the front seat. I wasn't sure if I'd heard correctly and turned to look at him. Ethan sighed. "Both helpless and doting. You didn't even notice the fish took the bait." I didn't understand what he meant, but it didn't matter. I just threw myself into his arms and acted spoiled. "Mr. Walker, I love you so much." Ethan stiffened for a moment, then pinched my cheek, his lips curling into an unmistakable smile. "You're so stupid." Within a few days, Ethan's promised money arrived in my account. I had originally planned to save more money over a few months before leaving, but I was afraid my pregnancy would become noticeable by then and I'd be discovered. I began carefully planning my escape route. After finishing, I took the lunch prepared by the maid and prepared to deliver it to Ethan's company. Ever since he found out last time that I was planning to sell him out for 1 million, my mood has been far from pleasant. While the sun shines, make hay. To keep my sugar daddy happy, I've been bringing him lunch every day lately. Though the effect is minimal, at least it's something. Ethan isn't here. The secretary said he's still in a meeting, perhaps because it's early in the pregnancy. I've been feeling extremely sleepy lately. I fell asleep on the sofa in no time. In my drowsy state, I felt someone picking me up. "President Walker, the designer for the diamond you bought at Sotheby's has completed the draft. Would you like to review it now?" "Let's check later." "Is the wedding dress ready?" "The wedding dress is also undergoing final adjustments and should be completed soon." "Have the roses for the venue decoration been airlifted in?" "They've all been ordered, don't worry." The details of the engagement reached my ears, and my heart gradually grew cold. Apart from work, I had never seen Ethan care so much about anything in life. How much must he love Harper to fuss over even the smallest details like this? Ethan gently carried me and laid me down on the bed. Thinking about his impending engagement with Harper, a pang of bitterness welled up in my heart, and I couldn't help but tighten my arms around his waist. "Did I wake you?" "No." I lifted my head in his embrace and licked his Adam's apple. Ethan darkened his gaze, his deep eyes unabashedly revealing a burning desire. "Be good. I have a meeting this afternoon." I refused to listen, tugging at the hem of his clothes as I slowly slid down his body. "I want you, one last time." Ethan, his Adam's apple bobbed as he grabbed my hair and kissed me fiercely. "You'll be the death of me one day." He didn't attend the afternoon meeting. It wasn't until nightfall that he finally let me go. "I'm going on a business trip tomorrow. Wait for me at home like a good girl. If you get bored, go out and spend some money. I obediently replied, okay. The next day, Ethan went on a business trip. I didn't get up until noon. As soon as I sat down at the dining table, I noticed all the servants looking at me with pity. What's wrong? I asked curiously. Everyone shook their heads and quickly dispersed without answering. I picked up my phone. And the top trending topic read, Beijing's Crown Prince Ethan and Louis family's little Princess Harper have arrived in Hong Kong together. So that's what it was. Without hesitation, I packed my luggage and bought the earliest flight ticket to Shanghai. I spent 2 days wandering and eating alone in Shanghai. And on the third day, I went to Disneyland. A bit of that girlish fantasy once made me imagine coming here one day with Ethan. It's okay, going alone is still a lot of fun. As I held up my camera ready to take photos with the mascots, a group of bodyguards quickly split the crowd into 2 lines with black umbrellas. Ethan stepped gracefully from beneath the umbrella. His impeccably tailored suit seemed out of place in this setting, his dark eyes fixed on me directly, as if I were a troublesome child giving him a headache. Why did you run off here alone? The surrounding crowd began whispering. I knew there was no escape now. I saw gossip accounts saying you went on a date with Harper in Hong Kong. They made it sound so vivid. I got angry and ran out to have fun by myself. I quickly put on an expression of both grievance and petulance. Ethan remained silent, his gaze shifting, yet his expression seemed happy. I walked over, hooked my arm around his neck, stood on tiptoe to kiss his chin, then pressed my cheek against his chest. I missed you. Watching my actions, he finally let out a light laugh, wrapped an arm around my waist, and planted a kiss on top of my head. When did you become so clingy? Hearing this, I secretly breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed I had managed to fool them. In the end, we visited Disneyland together, passing through Pooh's Corner. A sign above read, "No unhappiness can't be solved by a balloon." Ethan walked over and bought all 100 balloons from the staff, then turned and handed them to me. Don't be unhappy anymore. A gentle breeze brushed by, carrying the scent of buttery popcorn in the air. I reached out and held Ethan's hand that was gripping the balloon, steadily raising my gaze to meet his, and the look in his eyes was like stars in the night sky, dazzling and radiant. I followed Ethan back to Beijing, right after landing. Ethan was whisked away by his assistant, while I took another car back to the villa. The next morning, Ethan strode in with long steps, no longer wearing the suit from the previous night. The thought that he might have spent another whole night with Harper made my heart ache unbearably. What a scumbag. Then it occurred to me how ridiculous I was being. How could a caged bird like me meddle in the affairs of its keeper? Yet, despite this realization, the pain lingered. It seemed the only solution was to leave as soon as possible. The last escape attempt failed. Ethan must be on guard now. It won't be so easy to run away again. I contacted Ethan's archenemy Jiang Rang. The reason I reached out to him is that he previously hinted for me to leave Ethan and join him instead. This man takes pleasure in opposing Ethan at every turn. Ethan is unhappy, so he's happy. Although I don't think my departure as an insignificant canary would cause Ethan even a hint of sadness, but since Jiang Rang has this idea, it would be good if he could help me. The call connected, and a man's lazy voice came through the receiver. Who is this? Mr. Jiang, I'm Ella. Jiang Rang paused for a few seconds before smiling. Miss Ella, what brings you to contact me so suddenly? I got straight to the point. You mentioned before that you'd help me leave Ethan. Does that offer still stand? Of course, I want to leave next week. I hope you can help me. Miss Ella, I helped you. What's in it for me? Nothing at all. Jiang Rang seemed unprepared for my answer and choked on his words. Before he could speak, I continued, though I may not be someone Ethan particularly cares about. I've been with him for 3 years. If you can help me leave quietly, Ethan would still lose some face. Next time you see him, you'd have a chance to tease him a little. Ha ha ha, Miss Ella, you really are quite interesting. No wonder Ethan kept you by his side for 3 years. Fine, I'll help you. Jiang Rang acted quickly, informing me within a few days that everything was ready. I had always wanted to leave, but now that the moment had arrived, I found myself feeling oddly sentimental and melancholic. That day, I made a special effort to wake up early, dismissed the servants, and personally prepared breakfast for Ethan. Ethan was coming downstairs as I was bringing the hot porridge to the table. Ethan pulled out a chair and sat down. "What have you taken a fancy to this time?" I shook my head with a smile and set the porridge down. "Nothing, really. I just thought you've been working too hard lately, Span." He seemed about to say something more when his phone rang. It was Lewis's secretary calling. "He's the one keeping an eye on the engagement arrangements for Ethan." I lowered my eyes and silently served him porridge without a word. Before long, Ethan returned after finishing the call. "I've been very busy lately." "Be good," I nodded, poking at the rice in my bowl with my chopsticks, unwilling to give up and still wanting to struggle a bit more. "Ethan, if I were pregnant, would you want this child?" "There won't be a child." A bitter taste filled my mouth, and in the end, my heart turned completely cold. That's true, Walker family is such a prominent household. How could they ever accept a child born from a canary? Perhaps my unhappiness was too obvious. Ethan pulled me onto his lap and gently soothed in a soft voice. "We don't need a child, having you is enough. But what can I do?" "Ethan, I want this child." I forced a smile. "Okay." After breakfast, I saw Ethan to the door. After Ethan left, Jiang Rank's people came to pick me up. Ethan didn't realize Ella was missing until 3 days later. These past 2 days he's been so busy he hasn't had a moment to rest. He wanted to marry Ella, but the elders of the Walker family would never allow it under any circumstances, so he deliberately spread the word that he was getting engaged. The Walker family all assumed the bride would be Harper. By the time they conducted their background check, they would discover that Harper had already been getting cozy with the young master of the Lee family and couldn't possibly be engaged to him. Thanks to the positive news of his engagement, Walker Corp's stock had been soaring these past few days. When the scandal erupted, even for the sake of profit, those old fools would have to accept Ella. Yet Ella had vanished right under his nose. His men had searched for an entire day, but there wasn't a single trace of her. He had checked. Ella had taken all her personal belongings from the villa. It seemed she had left on her own, not kidnapped. Ethan sat down on the sofa, leaning back slightly with a weary expression. Suddenly, the phone rang. "Speak." Ethan rubbed his tired brow. "You don't sound too good," came Jiang Rank's gleeful voice. He hung up. "You're looking for Ella, aren't you?" Afraid he might really hang up, Jiang Rang cut straight to the point. "Ella is with you." "Jiang Rang, do you have a death wish?" Ethan's jawline tensed tightly, his cheek muscles twitching slightly, his previously weary eyes instantly erupted into a storm. "Then you're really wronging me. It was your Ella who begged me to take her away. Let her answer the phone. Why should I listen to you? Seeing you so pissed off makes me happy. It seems the Jiang family has given you too much funding. I'll personally visit old Master Jiang tomorrow." "Damn it, Ethan, can't you take a joke?" Jiang Rank's tone carried a hint of irritation. I said, "Let Ella answer the phone." "Fine, wait." When Jiang Rang handed me the phone, I was secretly crying on the balcony. "Why did you sneak away?" Ethan's voice was cold and hard. "Mr. Walker, let's break up. You disappeared without a word for days. And the first thing you say to me is that you want to break up." "Yes." I couldn't see his face, unsure of his current emotions. "Are you sure about this?" "I've thought it through. Ella, since we're breaking up, let's settle the accounts clearly." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Ethan had never been a petty person. During our 3 years together, apart from the monthly living expenses, he had always been generous with me in other aspects. How could someone like this want to settle accounts after a breakup? "Mr. Walker, when I left, I only took my personal clothing. All the valuable jewelry and bags were properly packed and placed in the jewelry cabinet. If you don't believe me, you can go check." The more I spoke, the more wronged I felt. "Ella," Ethan couldn't hide the irritation in his tone, "who the hell wants to settle accounts with you about these things?" "What is it then?" There was a long silence on the other end of the phone. "Ella, have you really thought this through? If you break up with me, you'll lose all the jewelry you love, the haute couture gowns, even your monthly allowance." "Mr. Walker, I've thought it through very clearly," I interrupted Ethan, unwilling to be swayed by his temptations anymore. I knew he was generous. If I stayed by his side without romantic involvement, I could at least live in luxury for the rest of my life. But I wanted too much. I had developed feelings I shouldn't have. Besides, I was secretly carrying his child now. Ella, you're something else. With that, Ethan hanged up the call without another word. Are you okay? Jiang Rang's voice was laced with concern. I shook my head and handed the phone back to him. If you regret it, I can. I don't regret it, and I couldn't afford to. After seeming to weigh his words, Jiang Rang spoke again. Why did you leave Ethan? I'm pregnant, I told him truthfully. What? Holy shit. The expression on Jiang Rang's face instantly shifted from ready-to-hear story to sheer panic. You fucking killed me. With that, he hurriedly ran out. I was slightly puzzled. Since the child wasn't his, why was he so nervous? The next morning, Jiang Rang specially arranged a nutritionist and a maid to take care of my daily needs. This is too much trouble for you. If something happens to you here, with 2 lives at stake, it would be even more troublesome for me. Jiang Rang's words sounded troublesome, but his tone was full of concern. If you're feeling unwell anywhere, just tell me. I've even arranged for a family doctor for you. I couldn't help but feel a wave of warmth inside. His good upbringing prevented him from leaving me. This trouble, unattended, to avoid awkwardness, I quickly picked up my phone. That day's trending topics popped up in a notification instantly. Shocking. A top-tier female celebrity in the entertainment industry spends a passionate night with the heir of Beijing's elite circle, Ethan, at a hotel. I couldn't believe my eyes, my fingers trembling as I tapped the screen. Accidentally hitting the page ads several times due to nervousness, opening the photo, the first thing that caught my eye was Ethan's strikingly dark and beautiful eyes. He gazed into the camera, backlit. His features under the shadows weren't entirely clear, yet he remained breathtakingly handsome. Behind him, the golden revolving door revealed the black hem of a woman's skirt and a glimpse of her fair, slender calf, even without seeing her face. One could tell how breathtakingly beautiful the owner of that skirt must be. I stared blankly for a while, tears welling up without me realizing. Another trending topic was a Ethan interview video. I wanted to turn off my phone but couldn't resist clicking on it. Ethan, who had always only given financial interviews, actually stood before entertainment reporters. This was the first time he personally came forward to debunk rumors about his own romantic scandals. How ridiculous. No matter how outrageous the gossip headlines had been before, he never responded. But now, to get engaged to his white moonlight, he immediately stepped out to deny the newly spread rumors himself. Clearly, he truly loves Harper. An indescribable bitterness surged up from my throat in waves. My heart pounded violently, as if it had been fueled by a night of hard liquor, and my tears flowed even more fiercely. I despised the pathetic state of wanting everything yet unable to commit. I told myself to stay away from Ethan, yet I couldn't resist craving his tender affection. I need to clarify something here. Ethan's dark eyes held no trace of amusement, his expression solemn and serious. There has been considerable public interest in my personal life. I've become somewhat aware of the various false reports circulating online and in the media. Originally, I thought these baseless rumors weren't worth addressing, but now they've begun severely affecting my personal life. So I want to make it clear here that I, Ethan, have only had one girlfriend, and I personally have intentions to marry her. Everything else is just rumors. If any more false rumors spread, my team will pursue legal action to the fullest extent, Ethan said, his gaze fixed firmly on the camera. For a moment, I actually felt like he was looking directly at me. Mr. Walker, there have been widespread rumors about your impending engagement to Lewis family's eldest daughter Harper. Is Lewis the girlfriend you mentioned? How long have you two been dating? Mr. Walker mentioned having marriage plans. Have you successfully proposed yet? Ethan didn't answer any more reporters' questions and left in a car escorted by bodyguards. Seeing him get into the car, Harper grinned and turned off her phone. Ethan, why didn't you clarify everything just now? Ethan rolled down the car window a crack and glanced outside. Clarify what? Clarify that the woman you're marrying isn't me. The one the media has repeatedly photographed with you, Ella, is the apple of your eye. Ethan turned to look at her, his tone laced with self-mockery for reasons unknown. No need, not like that woman would care anyway. That ungrateful little brat could never be tamed. Whoever could give her enough money and buy her beautiful jewelry would be the one she'd gaze at with sparkling eyes. She'd sweet-talk them with honeyed words that could drown a person, making them happy. From beginning to end, Ella only saw him as a client, yet he fell deeper day by day, willing to pluck the stars from the sky for her, thinking of how decisively she had proposed the breakup. Ethan irritably ruffled his meticulously styled hair, suppressing the turmoil in his heart. "You're quite interesting too. You've denied all those years of scandalous rumors. So why leave this one thing about me unclarified?" Harper pouted deliberately, aiming straight for Ethan's weak spot. "Could it be that you never actually succeeded with her and kept this matter about me on purpose to make her jealous? Young Master Lee recently invested in a tech project, Ethan. You're really despicable. I heard he's staked his entire fortune this time. If he loses everything, will your family still approve of your marriage?" Ethan slowly twisted the decorative ring on his middle finger, his tone playful. Harper gritted her teeth in anger but refused to back down. "Serves you right that your wife ran off with someone else." Noticing his expression darken, she deliberately added fuel to the fire. "With Ella's looks, there are plenty of men willing to spend fortunes just to make her happy. I heard it was Jiang Rang who took her away. Although he doesn't have much say in the Jiang Corporation, the funds he controls could last several lifetimes, and their ages are quite compatible too." The extended Rolls-Royce suddenly slammed on the brakes by the roadside. "Get out," Ethan said coldly, pointing at the car door. Harper couldn't believe it. "Ethan, are you out of your mind? Will you get out yourself, or should I have the driver throw you out?" Ethan's eyes were devoid of warmth, his voice growing colder. Harper glared at him and forcefully pushed the not fully opened electric door. "Ethan, just wait to drink at Ella's wedding." Without waiting for Ethan to respond, she fiercely kicked the car door and ran off. Ethan was seething with unvented anger. Returning to the villa, the dazzling lights momentarily dazed him. In the past, whenever his car stopped, someone would come running out with joy. The moment the car door opened, she would leap onto him like a koala, coquettishly mentioning some new favorite item she had her eye on. At first, he thought this behavior was improper and tried to stop Ella a few times, but as it happened more often, he let her be. Ella loved beautiful, extravagant, and expensive things. He had looked into her background. She knew she loved money, all for the sake of her foster mother's orphanage. Coincidentally, what he lacked least was money. He could fulfill all her needs. He thought Ella had some genuine feelings for him. Otherwise, why would she use their photo together as her phone wallpaper? Until the day she resolutely and silently disappeared. If it weren't for Jiang Rang's phone call, he wouldn't even have known her whereabouts. The fact proves that Ella, this heartless woman, doesn't need a man's cheap love at all. She never thought that the reason Ethan spoiled her, indulged her, and spent lavishly on her was because he loved her. Ethan smoked in the room for the first time. Ella hated the smell of smoke, so he never smoked in front of her. He even made sure to rid himself of any trace of cigarettes or alcohol before returning home. With his back to the moonlight, his figure was obscure and shadowed. One hand rested on the arm of the sofa, his slender fingers holding a cigarette, its tip still glowing crimson. He smoked several in a row, yet the restlessness in his heart refused to dissipate. Stubbing out the cigarette butt, he stood up and began pacing back and forth in the room. Walking to Ella's walk-in closet, those expensive jewels lay quietly in their cases. They had once sparkled so brilliantly, yet after Ella left, they too lost their luster. Ethan recalled how Ella used to stand before the mirror with smiling crescent eyes, adorning herself with those jewels. Then she would playfully throw herself into his arms, whispering sweet words of love. He adored her delicacy, yet despised her carefree indifference. But in the end, Ethan compromised. He picked up his phone and dialed Jiang Rang's number. "Mr. Walker, what brings you here?" Jiang Rang's teasing voice came through. "Let Ella listen." "She can't listen, she's taking a shower." Ethan's gentle gaze gradually dissipated, turning into an unfathomable chill. "If you still want to live comfortably as a parasite in the Jiang family, I advise you to think carefully before answering." Jiang Rang rolled his eyes while holding his phone, then glanced at the tightly locked bathroom door upstairs. As a man himself, he could sense Ethan's frenzy and jealousy. The Ethan standing before him now was completely different from the Ethan described by Ella. Was his intense concern and resentment merely driven by possessiveness? After spending several days with Ella, he gradually became influenced by her simple and adorable personality, and in his heart, he began to regard Ella as a younger sister, now that Ella is pregnant. No matter what, he feels compelled to probe Ethan's true feelings for the sake of his sister. Jiang Rang coughed lightly and replied in his usual carefree manner, Ella has been in a bad mood lately, often crying in secret. I tried to take her out to relax, but she refused every time. I'm quite worried about it too. You're saying she's been crying alone in secret? Ethan's tone softened immediately. Ethan, isn't he all over Lewis family's eldest daughter? Why the fake concern for Ella? When have I ever been all over Harper? The rumor mill says you and the Lewis family are arranging a marriage alliance, and you personally confirmed your proposal plans. If not Harper, are you proposing to Ella? Jiang Rang's voice was mocking. A long silence from the other side. Is it Ella? Jiang Rang asked again in disbelief. It is Ella. Ethan's face softened momentarily before returning to calm. So where is Ella? I'll go pick her up, Ethan. Ella is pregnant. Jiang Rang's words struck like thunder, leaving Ethan's ears ringing. How dare you take her away when she's pregnant? How could you? Ethan's dark eyes turned so cold they seemed to solidify. You took Ella back, and then what? Keep her as a caged canary like before? With her background, how could your Walker family ever let her in? I have my ways. And what are your ways? Spread false news of your engagement to Harper to boost Walker Corp's stock price. Then use the stock price to pressure your Walker family elders into compromise. Even if you succeed, won't this debt ultimately fall on Ella's head? Jiang Rang grew increasingly aggressive with each sentence. Jiang Rang, what's the matter? Did I hit a nerve? Ethan, I've already acknowledged Ella as my sister, until you resolve the mess with the Walker family. I won't send my sister back to endure their torment. Though I, Jiang Rang, may not have as much influence as you, I certainly have enough to support Ella and her child. With that, Jiang Rang hung up the phone. He was about to administer a strong dose of medicine. He wanted to see just how far a man like Ethan, who always held himself above others, would go for the woman he loved. I was taken to the airport overnight by Jiang Rang's people, who said they had arranged for me to go to the UK to give birth. 7 months later, I successfully gave birth to my daughter in the UK. When the little one was first born, she was all wrinkled and quite ugly, nothing like the adorable babies you see on TV. This made me anxious for several days. The caregiver aunt comforted me by saying that all newborns look like this and will grow into their features in a few days, which made me feel better. The aunt asked me what name I planned to give the child. After some thought, I decided to call her Aria. I never experienced any happiness or joy growing up, and I hope my child can feel it. During my time in the UK, I became good friends with the girl next door, Jiu Mion. She owned a candy shop, and I started working there. I really enjoyed this job, being busy every day. I even went a long time without thinking about Ethan. I'm now a single mother living a modest life in the UK, while he remains the untouchable crown prince of Beijing's elite circles. Life drifted along leisurely until our candy shop suddenly went viral thanks to a Chinese influencer's video, becoming a must-visit spot for tour groups. Customers flooded in overnight, and we started raking in money hand over fist. At the same time, I caught the attention of some white troublemakers hanging around the neighborhood. It began with lingering stares, but within days escalated to constant harassment, with them even making lewd comments in English. I thought about calling the police, but with no background in the UK, provoking such people might put my daughter at risk. I had no choice but to endure it, seeing how hard it was for me to raise a child alone. Jiu Mion secretly suggested that I try dating. I thought she was joking, but a few days later, Jiu Mion actually found an aunt who had moved from China to the UK, saying she could introduce me to potential partners. All I could do was put on a tearful performance in front of the aunt, recounting how I had been betrayed by my husband, how he had an affair while I was pregnant and then died in a car accident, leaving me and our unborn child behind. I originally intended to persuade the aunt to give up, but she seemed moved by my story and confidently promised to find me a good match. A few days later, The aunt introduced me to a lawyer, unable to refuse. I had no choice but to arrange to meet him at the shop. On the day of the meeting, a white troublemaker, seeing me on a blind date, deliberately provoked me. But upon learning that my date was a lawyer, his aggressive demeanor instantly weakened. Being a lawyer is a highly respected profession in the UK. My blind date warned him that if he harassed me again, he would definitely be sent to jail. The thug was intimidated and soon slunk away. In the following days, that thug truly never appeared in my sight again. Overjoyed, I specially invited my blind date to lunch. At the dinner table, we had a delightful conversation. He was a humorous and charming man, very considerate, and paid great attention to details. When I burst into laughter for the third time at his jokes, Ethan appeared. He pulled out the chair next to me and sat down directly. The blind date sitting across from me was astonished but still maintained her politeness. "Excuse me, sir. Do we know each other?" Ethan didn't even glance at me, just lounged casually in his chair, his gaze coolly fixed on the opposite side. I couldn't help but tug at his sleeve. Ethan acted as if he didn't feel it, calling over the waiter to start ordering. "Ethan," I whispered his name, and he glanced down at me. "What's up, sweetie? Want something to eat?" "What are you trying to do?" I asked nervously, afraid he might do something to embarrass my blind date across the table. Ethan twitched the corner of his mouth, ignoring my question as he turned his gaze back to the man opposite us. "Sir, I just wanted to warn you, the lady sitting across from you is a notorious romance scammer." "What?" The man across from me and I simultaneously looked at Ethan in shock. Ethan ignored us and continued, "Don't be fooled by her plain appearance now. Before coming to England, she only wore Dior's seasonal haute couture dresses, bought jewelry exclusively from auction houses, and wouldn't even glance at regular boutique items. She only collected limited edition handbags and even used specially sourced Bergwater just to brew her coffee, both delicate and extravagant." The man opposite gradually showed astonishment but still insisted, "I've interacted with Miss Ella several times, and she's not the kind of person you're describing." Ethan smirked. "That's exactly where her brilliance lies. I told you she's an expert at disguise." I couldn't take it anymore and angrily kicked Ethan hard under the table. I wished that kick could send him flying into the Thames. Ethan wasn't annoyed either, elegantly brushing off the spot I had dirtied with my kick. "I haven't finished yet. After you successfully fall into the trap, this woman will sweet-talk you. And once you're deeply entangled, she'll turn her back on you, pull up her skirt, and run away." "Ethan." I couldn't take it anymore and slapped his thigh. Ethan suddenly grabbed my hand and rubbed it against his body in a suggestive manner. Then, the blind date across from me began to look dazed. "I'm her husband." "But isn't her husband? Did she tell you I was dead?" "You see, this perfectly proves my point. She's an out-and-out little liar," Ethan said, turning to look at me. "Miss Ella, wouldn't you agree?" The man across from us practically fled in panic. I sat there fuming with rage. Ethan seemed completely unaffected, leisurely enjoying his tea and pastries. I didn't want to deal with him, so I turned away and walked off quickly, carrying the bag. Ethan followed behind me. "Ella," he yanked me so hard I stumbled, fueling my anger even more. "Ethan, are you out of your mind?" People on the street looked over curiously, too embarrassed to say anything else. I didn't wait for Ethan to react and quickly jumped into a taxi by the roadside, making my escape. I don't understand Ethan why he appeared in the UK. Could it be that he found out about his daughter's existence, which upset Harper and made Ethan come here personally to deal with it? Lost in thought, I walked home, only to find that familiar figure leaning against the car door smoking as soon as I reached the entrance. I turned to run, but Ethan stubbed out his cigarette and strode after me, running away. I bit my lip, refusing to respond to him. "Now you're scared." Ethan raised an eyebrow, a subtle shift in his gaze. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. "Mr. Walker, we've already broken up. Since you're engaged to Harper, you should be loyal to her. We need to keep our distance." Ethan grabbed my wrist with a calm expression and pulled me to the door. "Open it." Seeing that I wasn't moving, he shrugged indifferently. "Then we'll just lean here. It's not like I'm the one who should be embarrassed." I could hardly believe it. After a year apart, Ethan had become so shameless. The moment the door opened, Ethan eagerly pinned me against the wall. His tall frame loomed over me, his firm chest trapping me between him and the wall. "Mr. Walker, I've already told you, we've broken up. It's inappropriate for you to be pinning me down like this." Ethan lowered his gaze, suddenly gripping my chin and forcing me to meet his eyes. "So your idea of a breakup is just running away without a word and without my consent? Breaking up isn't the same as divorce, and what gives you the right to ruin my blind date, whether I get married or have children now? It has nothing to do with you, Mr. Walker." Before I could finish speaking, Ethan fiercely kissed me. As if to spite him, I clenched my teeth tightly. Ethan let out a mocking laugh, tightened his grip on my chin, and bit down hard on my lips. The pain made me part my lips slightly, and his tongue invaded my territory, carrying the lingering taste of tobacco. Ethan suddenly bent down, scooped me up in his arms, and threw me onto the bed. I struggled to get up, but was Ethan grabbed by the ankle and pulled back. I desperately kicked at his chest with my other foot. "Ethan, are you insane?" Ethan remained silent, lifting my calf to his cheek and caressing it gently. His Adam's apple bobbed. "Ethan, don't." The scorching flame in his eyes burned me with pain. Ethan unbuckled his belt with one hand and tied me to the headboard, facing away from him. "Darling, was it really necessary to announce my death everywhere while I was just handling some trouble?" "Ethan, let me explain," I pleaded, my voice trembling. He leaned down and whispered in my ear, his voice hoarse and seductive. "You asked if I'm crazy. That's right, I'm fucking driven insane by you. Ella, did you come back very late yesterday? Why didn't you come to pick up Aria from my place?" Hearing the voice, I scrambled out of bed and rushed to the living room, shouting in panic towards the door. "Don't come in." Gu Mion opened the door and walked in holding the child. Meanwhile, Ethan was already standing properly dressed by the door. Seeing the man before her, Gu Mion was so shocked she didn't know what to do. Ethan gazed at Aria with his dark eyes for a moment, then suddenly reached out his hand. "Just give me the child. You've been troubled last night. You can go back now." Gu Mion glanced at me uncertainly, but ultimately placed the child in Ethan's arms before turning and leaving. Ethan carefully carried the child over to me, emotions surging in his eyes. "What's her name?" My palms were sweating. I left to protect the child, but truth will out in the end. I clenched my fist and said hoarsely, "Aria." Ethan carried the child to the crib, gently laid her down, and carefully tucked her in with a solemn expression, as if handling something fragile. After everything was done, Ethan looked at me. "If you were pregnant, why did you run away?" I slowly let out a sigh, feeling an indescribable bitterness in my heart. "You don't want the child. Nor do you want me." Ethan seemed to hear something amusing, his gaze lingering on me with a hint of amusement. "Miss Ella, have you ever asked me, Mr. Walker? I know you're unhappy about me secretly having your child, but could you please let her go? I promise I'll never bring her before you or Harper again, nor will she ever return to claim any inheritance. I just want to live peacefully here with my child. Please grant me this." My body stiffened as I pleaded. Ethan looked grim. "Did I say anything about eliminating the child? You'll never take my child away from me." Ethan was utterly infuriated by me, his voice seeming to grind through clenched teeth. "Can't we just raise her together?" I mustered the courage to glare at him and retorted righteously, "Ethan, what kind of person do you take me for? You're already engaged to Harper, and I absolutely refuse to go back to being your caged canary with a child in tow." "Ella, I'm not engaged to Harper. If you keep spouting nonsense, I'll have the Walker family's legal team sue you for defamation. If you hadn't suddenly run off to England without a word, we would have been married long ago." The sheer amount of information in his words left me gaping in stunned silence for a long moment. "Aren't you supposed to be engaged to Harper? Who told you that?" "I guessed it myself." Ethan looked at me with cool eyes. "I wanted to propose to you. I only used Harper as a smokescreen because I was afraid the other members of the Walker family would make things difficult for you. The reason I'm only coming to you now is that I followed Jiang Rang's advice and dealt with all the factors that were unfavorable to you. You clearly said when signing the agreement that you didn't want to talk about feelings. Not talking about feelings was the initial idea, but later, I let you act recklessly and cleaned up your messes behind you. I've been so good to you, can't you feel it?" But you said you didn't want children, I retorted softly. Wasn't it you who said your childhood was too bitter and painful, that you didn't have the ability to love a child, and that you'd never have children in this lifetime? Do I, really? I felt somewhat guilty. Over the years by Ethan's side, I've been constantly nurtured by his love. So I'd forgotten I once claimed I lacked the capacity to love a child. Ella, I'm sorry, I was wrong. I ran to Ethan and wrapped my arms around his waist, planting playful kisses on his chin as I cozied up to him. You silly thing. The next moment, he leaned down, his cool lips brushing against the corner of my mouth in a kiss. A week later, after handling all my affairs in the UK, I returned to Beijing with Aria and Ethan. On the very first day back in Beijing, I met Ethan's legendary white moonlight. Harper, Miss Ella, we meet again. Harper nodded at me with a smile. So you were willing to come back from the UK? Does that mean this bastard has explained everything to you? I nodded, then shook my head, a bit puzzled. I asked Ethan, you too? Harper isn't my first love, we just grew up together, and she's getting married too, Ethan said bluntly. Then why is everyone outside saying you two are a couple? To avoid being forced into arranged marriages, we're using each other, Harper chimed in. So, Ethan, I'm your first love. I seized the key point in their conversation. Ethan turned his head away, his ears turning red. Harper laughed uncontrollably and said without hesitation, oh my God, Ethan, you've finally met your match. After Ethan and I got our marriage certificate, he bought numerous billboards and launched an overwhelming advertising campaign while we were preparing for the wedding. I'm puzzled. Why did he suddenly become so high profile? Ethan's reason was quite simple. No matter where you go in the future, people will recognize you as Mrs. Walker. Let's see how you can run away then. It seems my attempt to secretly escape with the child left quite a psychological shadow on the young master. On the wedding day, I saw Jiang Rang again. I respectfully toasted him and addressed him as brother. Jiang Rang glared at Ethan with gritted teeth. Little Ella, you must avenge your brother. Back then, because I helped you escape, that bastard Ethan shorted my stocks and caused me heavy losses. Hearing this, I felt somewhat guilty and promised him that I would make Ethan find a way to compensate him. My alcohol tolerance is poor, and after a few drinks, I was already a bit drunk, so Ethan carried me back to the bridal chamber. Ethan placed me on the bed, ready to go out for another social engagement. Drunk and clinging to his neck, I refused to let go, rubbing against him recklessly. Ethan swallowed hard and pinned me down on the bed. Be good, let's have another baby. His hand caressed my belly. You say it so lightly, you have no idea how hard childbirth is. I almost had a difficult delivery when giving birth to Aria. I didn't actually have a difficult delivery. I just wanted to play a prank and scare Ethan. He lowered his lashes, the corners of his eyes slightly red. Soon he raised his eyes again and said hoarsely, I'm sorry, I didn't know, sweetheart, I'm sorry, I won't bring it up again. I didn't expect him to react like this, so I quickly and awkwardly tried to comfort him. I didn't have a difficult delivery, I was lying to you, don't take it seriously. I just wanted you to feel sorry for me. No, I won't let you take that risk again, but I still want another baby. Honey, you have to listen to me. Ella, I love you. Ethan's eyes were filled with passion and sincerity. I know, I couldn't help but laugh. My heart felt warm. Countless wonderful nights in the future, he would stay by my side, until we grow old together. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, so feel free to share your opinions, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more great stories. We'll see you in the next video.